All right, hey Nerd Faithful, this is Rick from thebigbanglife.com. I'm here at JordanCon 7 with artist Samuel Flegal. Samuel has produced many excellent works of art within the fantasy genre. Samuel, thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Do I need to call you Rick or could I call you Hank? Is that okay?
Either one.
Okay.
Either one. Today, Hank is totally appropriate.
All right, sweet.
So I met you last year at JordanCon and went to a few of your panels. I saw you at LibertyCon even last year. And you know, I noticed with your work, I've also followed on Facebook, I've really enjoyed watching the evolution of a lot of your artwork. But maybe so the fans kind of know what kind of pieces of artwork do you do, what kind of style of art?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I work in, call it imaginative realism or fantasy art, genre art, that kind of thing. And I primarily work in oil paint. I start, like most artists, I start with a small thumbnail, which I build into a sketch. I shoot reference, it's like people in costumes and stuff, and then I do a drawing, and I take that drawing, put it on a board, and then I do an oil painting that kind of brings all that together.
Where do you get your inspirations from your artwork?
A lot of what I do is commissioned work, so a lot of that comes from, I receive what's called an art order, where I get, you know, a series of things to paint. Like I've done work for Fantasy Flight, their Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Fantasy games, and so sometimes you just get a piece that's, you know, paint a Slanesh Space Marine and, you know, make him look ugly. You know, sometimes it's even more specific. Sometimes it's more general, just, you know, we want a cool samurai doing battle in a forest and, you know, do whatever. But when I work for myself, a lot of times I draw on mythology, specifically Norse mythology. I love the old stories, the old myths, and I've been working on a series of paintings based on all that stuff. And so that's where I draw a lot of my stuff from, is stories.
Was there ever a particular artist that kind of inspired you to get into fantasy art in the first place?
Well, I mean, certainly as a kid, I read a lot of comics, loved comics.
Any particulars?
Comic artists from as a kid. As a kid, I loved Todd Lockwood, or not Todd Lockwood. He was sorry, the guy who did Spawn. Todd McFarlane. I don't know why I blanked out there. Todd Lockwood's the guest this weekend, so that's what confused me. Yeah, Todd McFarlane. I loved Spawn. I drew Spawn all the time. And then in the X-Men, Jim Lee's run on the X-Men from the early 90s sort of defined my experience with the X-Men. You know, that first issue that had like 5 different variant covers, and it was like the best-selling comic book of all time because everybody had to get all the variants and everything. And anyway, that was a lot of what I loved as a kid, comic book-wise. As far as within fantasy art, I mean, certainly Frank Frazetta was a big influence, and then Brom as well. And Brom did all the art for Dungeons & Dragons for their Dark Sun book. I don't know, it had this visceral quality that other stuff did. And then I played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons as well in high school and Magic the Gathering, and so, you know, all that stuff.
So that all helped a lot. One thing I remember, I think at the panel at LibertyCon last year, people were asking you, like, kind of how's the process work for you to do some of your artwork. And if I wasn't mistaken, I think you said something about, you know, people actually like go outside and take pictures of people.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah. References, that's what I'm talking about when I say reference. Yeah. So, I mean, at a very simple level, you can try and draw a hand out of your head, but it's going to be wrong and you'll spend a lot of time trying to fix it. Or you can photograph your hand or someone else's hand to get it in the exact pose you want with good lighting, and then that'll help inform your decision. And that's the most basic level. But I go beyond that to like dressing up my wife or my friends in actual costumes. I have swords and bow and arrows and props you'd want for fantasy stuff. And sometimes we do go out to the woods to do photo shoots. Other times it's just in my studio, depending on, you know, what I need. But yeah, it's a pretty involved process, but it's a very important part. I don't start with reference. I start out of my head because I feel like that gets sort of the raw emotion and thoughts down on the page. But then when it comes to making that look right, that's where the reference comes in, and I just think it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was like one scenario where you're actually having like people like climbing on different things and different positions. In the,
oh yeah,
in the
yeah,
pictures.
yeah. Depending on like I know I've done shoots with my friends where I give them swords and have them like jump off of picnic tables in the park, and I try and get the shot as they go over, and you got to do that about 100 times in hopes of getting the right shot. So.
That's pretty awesome though. Now, one thing I noticed too, you do some zombie themed art too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was a big part of how I got my start. I did zombie portraits at conventions and stuff like that.
Was there any a particular piece of art, or like was there a certain time when you were growing up and you did a drawing or a painting and you were just like, yep, this is my calling in life?
I guess the only thing I can come up with, like specific, I remember when I was 10 years old for Christmas, I got How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which is by Stan Lee and I believe it's John Buscema was the artist who worked on that with Stan Lee, and I took it to heart and drew every page, and it has a lot about like breaking the figure down into basic shapes, so like just building all of that knowledge. And I don't know exactly like that there was ever like a lightning moment where like this is what I want to do, but I do go back to that Christmas a lot as like a defining moment.
Now, one thing that you do on a weekly basis is an actual like show. Is it a YouTube?
Yeah, video cast.
And what's it called?
One Fantastic Week.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that.
So me and my co-host Peter Moorbacher, we do this show every week where we interview fantasy artists and each other. It started a couple of years back. Pete had this idea, like, Sam, me and you always have conversations at conventions, particularly conventions where lots of other illustrators are around. We start talking business and different ideas, and other people would come around and listen and join in, and that's a big part of wanting to go to those trade show types of conventions is to learn. And Pete just had the idea. I was like, Sam, let's do a web show where we just talk about what it's like week to week as a fantasy artist. And initially it was just me and Pete going back and forth, like, what'd you do last week, what'd you do last week, and going through both the ins and outs of like the highs and the lows and that experience. But at a certain point, we realized like we were kind of saying the same thing again and again, because a lot of times my weeks can be summed up as I spent time painting and drawing, but I didn't finish anything yet. And like unless I do a convention or have some major job come in. So then we started interviewing our friends who are other illustrators, and then now the show's grown to the point where we've had mentors and people we respect a great deal on the show, and a wide range of artists. We've even been contacted to get people on the show we haven't met until we do the show. And so yeah, it's going really well. We have over 70 episodes so far, and we started doing a thing called a crit cast, where we do critique episodes where we look at viewers' artwork and give tips on how to improve, and we have 5 of those episodes currently as well.
That's awesome. So this probably already answers into, you're kind of already doing that already, but what would you say to a person that's like starting out in drawing or painting and they're wanting to do it maybe for a career or just doing it as a basic hobby?
Yeah, I mean, those are two things though. I'd give different advice depending. If someone's just starting out and wanting to do drawing as a hobby, there's really, I just say just draw. I mean, that's the great thing. That's like learning to play guitar or that's why I think art and music are so many people's hobbies, because it's such a satisfying thing, because you can chart the progress. It's like you keep doing it, you get better. You get a new book that helps you, and you can take it at your own pace. If the person, or if I'm speaking to someone from the point of view of a career, it depends on at what point they are in their career, but I really evaluate, if you're thinking about going to school, don't just go to your local school because it's close for their art department. Really look for either online solutions, or if you want to go to a college, make sure that there are professors there who are going to teach you the things that you actually want to learn to move into the art field. The art field is not like, it's not like an accountant where, you know, you get your education, you pass a test, and you're a licensed CPA. And then you can go work for a corporation or do people's taxes or all the ways that CPAs make money. Art does not work that way. At no point in time has anyone ever asked me what my educational background was when I was getting interviewed for a job. It's always, let me see your portfolio, and the work is either up to snuff or it's not. And so I think that's important to remember that it is a different field, and through the internet, and we talk about this some on One Fantastic Week, there's a lot of other options now where people can have some really great educational experiences at very affordable levels and not get into crippling student loan debt as well, and right. You know, all just. I mean, that was me. You know, I did that whole thing. My degree's in art, but it was actually in graphic design. But yeah, so that'd be advice to someone who's at the beginning of their career. And then for both, it's just learn to love the process of making art, because the reality is it's something that most illustrators do. I know I certainly do. 40 to 60 hours a week, you're at the easel or at the table or at the computer, whatever your medium is. You know, you're drawing and you're painting, and you're by yourself, and you know, it's not. In a way, it's not really about the finished work as much as it is loving the process of making art. So I'd say learn to love the process.
Awesome. Well, Sam, I appreciate you coming today and doing this interview with us.
Yeah, absolutely, it's fun.
It was good catching up with you. I've been talking to you throughout the whole con. It's been a lot of fun. And I'll probably still keep seeing you throughout the weekend. Good luck with everything. I know you're going to be going to LibertyCon, and probably by the time this is produced, it'll probably be already done with, but okay. You're going to be at LibertyCon as their artist guest of honor there.
Yes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that show. Should be fun.
And I'm gonna I'll see you there as well. So.
All right, cool.
All right, good deal.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a good
one.
All right, American Faithful, have a good one.